During the first week in June, America's Hometown Laureates invited poets of all ages to its first Plymouth Poetry Festival. Over the course of 3 days, poets read original and borrowed poetry at 5 different locations, including Black Lantern Tavern, Uva Wine Bar, Shirley Square, Plymouth Center for the Arts, and Books and Sundry. Over the next few weeks, we'll be featuring a wide range of talented poets from across the South Shore. First up, here's John Holgerson with a reading of his original work.
I'm going to introduce, though, John Holgerson, who is here to recite his works. John, tell us a little bit about yourself when you come to the microphone and jump into your work, would you? Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Thank you. Good afternoon. Before I tell you a little bit about myself, I just want to make sure I compliment and commend the entities behind Hometown Poet Laureates for putting together this festival. Also, the venues that will be hosting the festival, starting with the Black Lantern today. I think that it goes without saying to those of us who are here how important the survival of poetry is, not just for us, but for our society. Because of the divisive society we do live in today, the one thing that may be able to bring us together is the spoken word. And keeping in mind that although we read poetry in black and white print, its origin was the spoken word. And that's why venues such as this and the Poetry Festival itself are so very, very important. So as for me, I have been writing since I was 13 years old. I started writing screenplays for black and white television shows. You might remember The Fugitive with David Jansen or Man from U.N.C.L.E. with Robert Vaughn and David McCallum. I wrote screenplays for those in a black and white speckled notebook on my front porch. I started writing poetry when I was 17. And when I went to university, I met a professor whose name is John Matthias, who is an American poet. And he conducted, besides classroom work, he conducted poetry readings for his students at his home. And it was through John Matthias that I became a serious writer of poetry and have tried to do my best to live up to his admonition to be a serious writer if you have the talent. So I have published 3 books of poetry: Broken Borders by Wasteland Press in 2012, a chapbook of poems, Unnecessary Tattoo and Other Stains on a Stainless Steel Heart in 2016 by the Finishing Line Press, and in 2021, Convictions of the Heart, which is what I'm going to read from this afternoon, which was published by In Case of Emergency Press. Convictions of the Heart is a collection of poems. The first half of the book deals with poems that I have either written on or about the Greek island of Idra. I go to the Greek island of Idra every year, barring pandemics, and have been doing so since 1995, although the first time I was there was in 1970 when I was 22 years old. So these poems that I'm reading now are from that first half of the book. Idra, April 2019, for Leonard Cohen, 1934 to 2016. I stood outside your old home today, as I've done in years past. Tangled ivy vines from the roof terrace stretched down the wall toward me, a thin green leafy rope, inviting me to grab its strands with both hands and pull myself up. If I was a younger man, perhaps, but my wall scaling days ceased long ago. Instead, I looked for the wire and the bird. I saw the former, a tightrope, taut and thin, pull-tied between red-roofed white houses. There was no sparrow, but I'm still here, listening for what cannot be heard. I put my hand on the wall of your house, hoping the lingering remnant of a once-strummed guitar riff or the clickety-clack of your old olive green Olivetti would course through my fingertips, run the maze of jagged lines on my smooth palm, up my willing arm to the area of the brain or whatever part of the soul sends messages to the muse assigned to a scribbler of verse. But it doesn't work that way, does it, Leonard? that singular muse here for you then isn't mine. Although I'd like to think they may be sisters, more likely cousins once or twice removed. At Duskos Taverna, I dined on fresh Xiphias under the huge old pine tree where once upon a time, before fame and fortune fell upon you, you sat, sang, and played guitar for Mariana and all your Idriot friends. I'll come by tomorrow. You never know. Someone or something may be at home. When I'm on the island, I rent and have since 2010 a house that's high up over the harbor on the eastern side of the island. And this poem is about that house. It's entitled High White Stone House. I don't think of you much in this high white stone house with silence and unseen shade drawn on each unshuttered window. Outside, the buzz of flies on poppies as loud as saws on redwood. The clop of hooves on carved rock stairs as empty as the chairs in the living room. No sound replicates your laughter burning moussaka in the kitchenette or your violin serenading the gypsies on the boats in the Horseshoe Harbor. The creak of the door creeps across these walls. The breath of the wind stutters. You, standing on the terrace, naked from the back, a ghost who sometimes mutters. When shutters close at day's end, a hungry dark slides over me inside this high white stone house, this hollow, unending echo of you. This next poem is actually 3 tanka. Tanka is a Japanese poetic form of putting 31 syllables in 5 lines with a syllable line 5, 7, 5, 5, 7. You can cheat like I do if you really want to count the syllables in this poem, but it should be close to 5, 7, 5, 5, 7. Also, the purpose of a tanka is to keep or to express an emotional state. Could be any type of emotion, but an emotional state. I put these 3 tanka together because they, in my opinion, they are essentially the same theme. Tanka triptych. The absence of you, a shawl across my shoulders, drawn tighter by the stillness of trees, the silence of birds. Watching the moon float amid cruising charcoal clouds, an ashen buoy on an onyx ocean, I thought of you tonight. The old dog lies down, headstone shade blankets him. He waits as before, head on the ground, dreaming, in smell of earth, scent of home. I'm pretty sure I'm at the end of my time, so I'm going to end actually with a new poem that I wrote this past April while I was on my annual obsessive pilgrimage to Idra. It's interesting only because it's the first new poem I've written in 10 months. I spent that 10-month period in captivity by the muse of fiction, who had incarcerated the muse of poetry and forbade me contact with her. However, during my pilgrimage to Idra, there was a jailbreak by the muse of poetry, and this poem escaped. It's called Cross Currents for Izzy. In the river that is time, there are no dams. Its passage never stops. For a few hours in its ebb and flow, our currents crossed. So we would share a memory found and then lost when the swifter current pulled away politely at the delta of age. Thank you very much.
For more information on America's Hometown Laureates, visit hometownlaureates.com or find them on Facebook.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button before you go. We'll see you next time.